Let me get my
What's going
camera.
on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Around the VLA. My name's Rob St. Clair, and that, fresh off a computer restart at the last worst possible moment, is Vince Zanzuki. Welcome to the show. It is, what is it, Wednesday, May 25th. And we've got a lot to get to because even though the VLA Cup tournament that we were all at a couple weeks ago was insane, the season is not over yet. There's a lot more coming, and me and Vince and some of the other West Coast area local clowns will be getting together to play play even more volleyball this weekend in Long Beach. Vince, welcome to the show. Glad your computer works. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
Yeah, I need a new computer basically. If anyone wants to donate one to me, something post 2013, that would be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, no, doing good other than that.
All right. Well, we got you just in time. I'm happy everything worked out. So we got a lot to talk about on this
Oh
show
yeah.
because since last time we did one of these, the last one of these shows, the last time we did around the VLA was the biggest one we've ever done because we did the whole pool reveal for the VLA Cup after the tier 2 teams had drafted their positions. We unveiled the fact that the VLA was going to be on ESPN Plus. Since that show, we had that giant 3-day tournament. We knocked it out of the park, and coming out on top of that tournament from the 5th seed in their pool, Hawaii's Emiola, after being, just about a 500 team through most of the season, they retool significantly. They win their pool all the way from the 5th seed in their pool. They beat Team Pineapple. They beat everybody in bracket. They get that double bye. They beat the Northeast Force. They beat Ruckus 3-0, and they beat the Milwaukee Dive 3-1 in the finals to win the VLA Cup. This was crazy. I mean, a 19-team tournament that had just a little bit of everything. But we got to start at the top, Vince. What's your takes on the way that Emiola came out of literally nowhere to win this tournament?
Yeah, they made some fantastic pickups, obviously. I mean, the tier two roster structure is a little bit different than tier one. Gives them a little bit more flexibility, and they were able to pull a lot of players. Oh, I should say a lot of players. Three key players for them that really, I think, gave them the up. However, not to take away from the fact that Surgeon Dosden, a fantastic performance
It
out
was
there.
so
DJ
good.
Suarez, another huge performance. He was due for a breakout. With Emiola, obviously, him kind of being ushered back to I feel like a second backup to Como on Ruckus. Finally getting the opportunity to claim his position, clearly earned that championship. And you can't say enough about how the two of them played. It was really fantastic to see. Amazing volleyball. Some of that match, Emiola Milwaukee Dive, one of the best matches that we've ever had on the VLA, and we got to see it on ESPN, which was amazing.
Yeah, how good was that broadcast? Wow, we all put so much work into that, and I couldn't believe how well it turned out. Everybody loved the fact that it was shot from the baseline camera. I'll obviously die on that hill, and I thought it looked awesome. Instant replay of all the just ridiculous highlight reel things that there were that happened. So yeah, that presented the league extremely well. Our viewership numbers were good, but it was all up to the teams playing great volleyball on that Sunday, and sure enough, exactly like we thought, as we were talking about the tournament format, there was a gigantic advantage to winning your pool. And as we take a look at the bracket here, if you won your pool, you got that coveted double bye straight into that third round, that round of 8 into the quarterfinals. And then all you have to do from there is win one match to get to Championship Sunday. And all 4 teams that won their pools and only had to play that one match on Saturday, all 4 of them were the ones that got to Sunday. So exactly like we pointed out on the last show we did before VLA Cup, winning your pool was going to be so important, and it totally played out that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the thing was that it was a, I don't want to say unconventional format. It was a little abstract. Obviously, with the getting the emphasis on getting that to the quarterfinal for winning your pool. One of the things that we didn't want to do is have teams where they feel like they can just kind of wing it in pool play And then we'll just make up for it coming into the next rounds. Yeah, we'll have a little bit tougher seed, but we'll play an extra match. We wanted to make it, we really wanted to reward those pool teams that won. And so the fact that they got that bye, and then all of the teams that won the pools actually advanced, except for no, all of them
Well,
did.
all of
Correct?
them, 4 for 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all of them did. And and that's the thing is like we don't want teams taking off. The other thing too is we didn't want teams trying to take advantage of the fact that they can gain more points by potentially losing a match, taking it easy in one of those pooled championship matches, and then going, okay, well, we're going to grab 2 wins here and then move on from there. I think it was the right format for the situation for VLA Cup. Perhaps something that we won't do all the time moving forward. We're hoping to be a 24 or 32 team bracket overall in future tournaments, but in a little bit more conventional tournament. But at the same time, I think that this was the proper format, and definitely the right 4 teams were in the semifinals.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the fact that that we let the tier 2 teams draft their pool position, that played out extremely well. I think that experiment was a really good one, and just the strategy that they all played with around where the tier 2 teams wanted to pick their seeds in their pools. And sure enough, we had 3 tier 2 teams win their pools. I mean, yeah, Emiola picking a 5 seed in pool D instead of the 4 seed in pools A or C, and they benefit by winning an extremely tight match against Team Pineapple on day 1, and that really set them up to make that run. The Milwaukee Dive, I think, right? Like, I think both of us kind of saw it coming that even as the 4 seed in Pool D, they had a great shot to win that pool, and they did, including a crazy 5-set match over Swede on Friday that put them in great position. And then again, somehow the Milwaukee Dive beating the Chicago Icemen in the semifinals on ESPN. That match was nuts because when Chicago came out early, that first match in the morning, they went up, I don't know, maybe 8-3. There's some crazy explosive start from Chicago. A lot of highlight reel plays, stuff blocks like Will Craft flying out of the back row like banging Bix. Like they looked like they were flying high, and Dive completely took the momentum away, controlled the pace of the game, and were able to beat their. I mean, we've got to consider it a rivalry at this point. Dive versus Icemen, and Dive kicking out the last tier 1 team to go to the finals. That match was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, and you got to give a lot of credit to Dive. Their defense, Will Craft, or sorry, not Will Craft,
Tyler
apologies
Wills.
to Will Craft. Yeah, but Chandler North and Tyler Wills, the two of them absolutely controlled the back row. And nothing against the libero spot or anything like that, but I've never seen a position 6 defense control a match that way.
I totally
And
agree.
yeah, and defensively, the two of them were spot on. They picked up everything, and they were able to transition so many balls. And I think that they really caught Iceman off guard because Iceman completely obliterated him in the first set.
Destroyed him.
And
Wasn't even close.
It almost looked like it was like, okay, this is a little embarrassing. At first appeal, nothing against Dive. Obviously, they won the match, but it looked like one of those where completely being outclassed right now. And then they flipped the script on them pretty heavy, and the defense was the key. But it all came out of position 6, which I've rarely ever seen before. If I couldn't tell you a time where I've seen position 6 be the key factor in defense to win a match.
Yeah, it was amazing. And both middle blockers for Milwaukee deserve credit too. Tyler Range and Wyatt Patterson slowing balls down, getting touches that enabled some of those position 6 plays to be made. And I totally agree because after Chicago just destroyed Milwaukee in that first set, Milwaukee shifted the pace of the game. They slowed the pace of the game down significantly. They dictated how that match was played from then on. And so then in the finals, when Dive went up against Emiola and got similarly destroyed in the first set, I think it was actually even worse, like 25-15 or something like that. I said it on the broadcast. I'm like, guys, don't worry about this. This happened this morning. Dive will take a set to, get their feet wet, and then they'll start to kind of sink their teeth into the matchup and slow it down. And sure enough, they did exactly that, and were able to take a set from even that high-flying Emiola team in that second set of the final.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to take anything away from Emiola when I say this, but Tyler Wills was
He was the best
the
player in the
best
tournament.
player
Yeah,
in that tournament.
he was.
100%. Tyler Wills was the best player in that tournament,
He
no doubt.
was.
And if Emiola had just a little bit more of a steady attack that dive really couldn't compete with outside of Tyler. Tyler really, and nothing to take away from dive either, because their efforts were there, and they played great. The problem was that Emiola was the more complete team than dive.
Totally.
Dive, nothing against the opposites as well, good enough to get them to the championship. A little improvement there. Not sure that the improvement is even out there, but if the improvement's there to get a little bit stronger of a right side, I think that they can. They change the whole course of this tournament and they win that match. But I think that obviously, like I said, Tyler Will's 100% the best player in that tournament by far.
I agree, and my pick for the most underrated player in the entire VLA. I mean, he won that championship with the Chicago Icemen last year before he and Chandler spun off from that team, formed the Milwaukee Dive. The two of them have anchored that outside hitter position the entire year. They made that great run in Chicago in their debut. They surprised a lot of people in Louisville, and I think now people are starting to figure out Tyler's game that we who live in the Midwest and have seen him play on the grass have known for many years, because his game is exactly the same outdoors as it is indoors. It's so complete. It's so smart. His high contact point, his late, like really accelerating wrist snap to put pace on the ball, his great hand contact. He was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with Tyler is you can figure out his game. You're not going to stop him.
Right. That's absolutely
leave it at
right.
that. Like, they knew what was happening. That line shot that he hits, you're not stopping that. I mean, he hits that thing 45 miles an hour down the line, 50 miles an hour down the line. It's almost like a shot, but he's scoring that point on you. You can't stop it. There's nothing you can do. That contact is 7 feet every single time. It's ridiculous.
Speaking of things that you can't stop, the true like walking highlight factory for Emiola this tournament was Daniel Wetter. Whoa. Speaking of things that are impossible to stop, there were points when both Dive and Ruckus on that Sunday, everybody knew the ball was going to the middle, and Wetter at only like 6'5", jumps so ridiculously high and effortlessly that I remember there was a point, I wish I had the clip, where he went straight over the top of a triple block in the middle. First of all, the fact that anybody's even triple blocking against a middle is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And the fact that Wetter made him look invisible was just astonishing. The contact point that this kid out of Cal State Northridge had. And then there was obviously the bounce against Ruckus on the back one that went pretty viral on Instagram. Was just insane. But you're right, Vince.
I'm disappointed no one's talking about the set though. I mean, that
was awesome.
That was fantastic. I mean, he put that just in the right place. The blockers even. The thing was what was crazy to me, he had 2 blockers on him.
2 blockers.
There
was one place he could go
into 2 blockers, and they still couldn't stop it. I mean, just fantastic play overall. And yeah, you got to give that bounce a lot of credit.
Oh my God.
That was one of the best I've ever seen.
That was just ridiculous. But yeah, and it wasn't just Wetter for Emiola. Like you said, their attack was so balanced. Serge Nadazhdin played as well as I've ever seen him play. I've been watching Serge for years, all the way back to when he was playing with you, Vince, for Arizona Sizzle. And he was fully healthy. He was ripping the ball, deep angle, sharp angle, great range, passed the ball great. And then a couple of more youngsters, Austin Wilmot, fresh out of Pepperdine, Bryce Dvorak setting that Emiola team, and Kyle Hobus, who was named the MVP of the tournament, well-deserved. Those guys offensively, the combination of all of them was too much even for a great defensive team like Milwaukee. Ooh, did I lose Vince? Vince, did you freeze on me? Yeah, I think Vince froze on me. That's a bummer. All right, so I'll break down a couple more things from the tournament before we jump into what the standings are and what's coming on up these next couple weekends. So a couple other key matches that I want to point out in this bracket that you see right here. There was Emiola over Ruckus 3-0 in the semis on ESPN. That was wild, especially considering the organizational commonalities of those two teams. But even before that, some of those Saturday matches were really good. I want to get Vince back on as soon as we can to talk about his Phoenix Ascension team's run, because they really had the run of the tournament in my opinion, beating Team Pineapple in 5 in the morning, beating Swede, then putting up a decent fight against Chicago, then playing a ridiculous 5-setter against Team LVC at night to maybe go to that consolation final. They had a great run. The Northeast Force had a really good run. I think they've been slept on a lot this year because I mean they were the lowest ranked team in Tier 1 throughout the year, but when Force added Nick Hunt, sure enough, they get this superstar opposite back that they've been waiting for the entire season, and their team completely changed. They were so much more balanced because their rock star outside hitter, Brad Borsay, didn't have to carry the entire offense. And they went toe-to-toe with some really good teams. They went toe-to-toe with Raelia Speller. And Rising Tide beating them in the second round. They put up a pretty good fight against Emiola. They put up a great fight against the River City Flow in consolation, even after their setter Kevin Gonsalves got hurt. Like they had an outside hitter, Garrett Minyard, setting and still like didn't get embarrassed in that match. So I thought that was really impressive. And I think we're getting Vince back.
You go sideways? Is that possible? God dang it! My computer.
No, that's okay. That's
right.
Good enough as long as you can hear me.
I can hear you. Sorry about that.
All right, sweet. Yeah, I was just talking about a couple other things from this bracket. I pointed out the Northeast Force run that I was really impressed by because I mean people were sleeping on them all year in Tier 1, but they didn't know what we knew, Vince, and that's that once you pick up Nick Hunt, that Northeast Force team is completely different.
Yeah, I said the same exact thing. I said Northeast Force is going to get points in this tournament. Unfortunately, they came up just slightly short because had they been able to put together a win against Flow and then beat LVC on that Sunday, they actually would have had a playoff spot. A great run late, but a little too late, basically. At the end, but I mean, they look solid. They look good. And again, if they had Nick Hunt the entire season, completely different look from Northeast Force. They definitely wouldn't have been sitting at the bottom like they are this season. So
yeah, their entire team's level totally changed when Nick Hunt got on that court with them. Everybody else played better and had to carry the offense less than before when you have that superstar right side. And the other run, Vince, that we've got to talk about is the Phoenix Ascension, man. Look at you guys. That win over Team Pineapple in the morning on Saturday, that 5-setter, followed by the win over Swede, who thought that they had positioned themselves to make a pretty good run at the tournament. And then you almost forced like the craziest match that late night on Saturday against LVC, almost pulled off the reverse sweep. You guys put your team on the map from an entire league perspective in a way this tournament that I mean you've talked about on this show, the Ascension rebuild. Tell me what that run on Saturday at VLA Cup did for your team.
Well, let's just preface this, and I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about, but that run would have never happened had Lloyd Ball suited up, because him and the night before, and he was telling me he's suiting up, and I said, "You suit up, I suit up." And sure enough, the next morning he did not, and so of course I didn't play. Fortunately for Ascension, that gave us the advantage, I think, to win that 5-set match. And because I think Lloyd would have got me back on that one had I suited up and set against him on that one. Zach Melcher was absolutely on fire. I didn't want to pull him, so I didn't. Thanks to Lloyd. And the thing was he played so well the day before. We took Ruckus to 4. Which I mean, yeah, you'd lose a 4-setter, but the best team in the league at that time, you lost in 4 still. A good game. We come out, we beat Brigade. The next morning, we were actually feeling pretty good. We were feeling pretty confident. I don't think that Pineapple, only playing the one match against Emiola, was really feeling comfortable where they were at. And so it was a good opportunity for us to jump on them and take them down. And my team played fantastic. I mean, Jonathan Bishop, Turner Douglas, our 2 big additions that we are building our foundation around, really came through for us. I mean, one of the best plays of the entire tournament, Jonathan Bishop housing a Bic by Tomas Goldsmith.
Oh, that was so sick.
I mean, it was unbelievable. That was my favorite play of the tournament by us.
In the 5th set, right?
I believe it may have been late in the 4th.
Maybe the 4th, maybe late in the 4th.
It defined the match, basically. It was at that point where I felt, okay, we got this in the bag, because Tomas was really the only one on that team was really giving us a lot of fits, and that once we kind of shut him down at that point, I knew that we had the match in the bag, and so that was kind of the start of it. And so obviously beating Team Pineapple, who has been sitting above us the entire season, pretty much. One of those things that we really needed to fight hard to get ahead of. And so that was a big match for us. Obviously, Team Pineapple being who they are in their home building, being able to defeat them is a huge accomplishment in itself. So that was really big for us. And then the next step, obviously, Swede, who is leading the tier 2 race and whatnot. They had a couple great additions with the Dominican opposite and Setter. They looked like a little bit stronger team than they have been this season. And so for us to go out and take that win as well, that was another big accomplishment for us to go and defeat basically the ranking wise the top team in tier 2 as well. So I think that we really found a rhythm at that point. And but I mean, obviously we had to play those back to back 4 matches immediately. It is a challenge in itself, but getting to the quarterfinals was a huge accomplishment for us. We're very happy with the way that we played, top to bottom. We had 11 guys had to step out there and get the job done, and I couldn't say enough about my Ascension team right now.
That was as good as I've ever seen Brian Lewis play for a tournament as well. He was awesome. Front court, back court, serving in and out of system, his range, his pace, his mitigation of his hitting errors. I don't know if I saw him miss a ball out of bounds the entire tournament. It was amazing how well Brian played. So I was really impressed by him. And I'm glad you brought up Turner Douglas, because him and Jonathan Bishop, like you said, Bishop in the middle and Douglas on the left, I think are the keys to accelerating that Ascension rebuild maybe a little bit faster than you may have even predicted.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I knew that the season wasn't going to be no season's easy, obviously. It's not like you go in and just throw on a roster and it's going to be okay. We just win matches, because every single team in the VLA, top to bottom, tier 1 to tier 2, is good. And so we knew we had our work cut out for us. Obviously, Brian and Zach being the foundations of our team, those two have had such a great connection for so long. They just score points. They know how to find each other. Zach knows who to go to when it's late, and Brian being finally able to kind of turn that tide where he's kind of the guy. It's always been where we've had Joe K, Serge. We've always had kind of guys that can kind of, okay, well, maybe that guy's the guy in this moment, or this guy. Well, we know that right now Brian Lewis is our guy that we go to in the clutch. And it has paid off so much that he's been able to come through for us, obviously getting us the wins that we have. So yeah, you can't say enough about how Brian's turned on that leadership role and embraced the fact that we are still in a rebuild. It's not like it's complete. We're not the top team in the league. Sitting at top in the West is, I don't want to say there's an asterisk by it or anything like that, because some of the teams haven't been as strong as they could have been. But at the same time, we've accomplished what we have because we've been consistently putting the same product, the same team out there week in and week out, practicing, and it pays dividends. The fact that we were able to beat a Team Pineapple, that has to do with the fact that we're practicing a couple times a week together. And huge shout out to Joe K and the Ruckus guys, because we practice with them. But that chemistry comes from months and months of hard grinding practice. It doesn't come from we just threw a team together and we had a good run. So
that I think is exactly the difference between you guys and Team Pineapple. And you talked about how crucial that match was for playoff position, which we'll talk about in the standings in a minute. Like that, you guys versus Pineapple head to head have been about at the same spot in the standings fighting for a playoff spot the entire year. But yeah, you guys are a team that is probably more greater than the sum of its parts because of the way that you practice together. Whereas Team Pineapple was able to pull a couple really nice, talented pieces just for this tournament, but they couldn't get everyone together to practice at all. So you get a Jalen Penrose, who's immediately one of the best opposites in the league, and you put him out against the Ascension in only his second match with Team Pineapple, because as a 1 seed losing to Emiola, they only put that one match on Friday. Like they had no time to figure each other out as a team. You guys had months and months and months. I think that really showed up in that match.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, if you really think about it, years for Zach and
years.
Lewis. I mean, and Keaton Berry as well. I mean, the three of them, Sam Haggard, I mean, we've been Ascension for a long time, but it does come down to, it's not like we came together, for a tournament. We've been practicing, we've been training, and we've been putting the work in. And that's how we had that successful run, is by consistently competing together. And again, like I said, huge shout out to Steph Brule, Joe K, Mark Olson, those guys that we've been practicing against Ruckus consistently for months. It really was a huge difference compared to to what we were able to accomplish out there.
So a couple of the results I want to go over, just go down a couple of the teams that had high finishes, a couple just pieces here and there. Even though the Chicago Icemen made it to Championship Sunday, and they did so very convincingly, like they won their pool easily. They got past you guys after you played a back-to-back match and 3 in a row on Saturday. But another loss to a Tier 2 team in a crucial moment when I really thought Chicago was in a great position to win this entire tournament. Is this a disappointing finish for them, do you think?
Oh, 100%. I think that Iceman was designed to win this tournament. Their roster was designed to win this tournament. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if they possibly looked past another team again with Dive. I'm not entirely sure what it is that needs to connect with them to make them be the best team. Because I feel like if they put a starting lineup together against most of these teams, they should be the best team out there. But I feel like that they just don't put it all together in these matches. And obviously Dive has been playing extremely well. They came up, and they surprised them, obviously, but to you and I, who's been watching this and seeing how things unfolded, I wasn't surprised that Dive won that match. I think that I just feel like Iceman needs to solidify who are our guys and how do we proceed with this. I think that they dabble a little bit too much with let's play this guy in this position, or let's give this guy a match maybe, or things like that, instead of saying, here's our starting 7, we're rolling with it, let's win, and then we make that happen that way. Or, we have a guy fill in here and there. I don't know exactly Tim Faulkner's approach to the team, just an outside observation, but I feel like that's something that they need to solidify, is who's our 7, and go from there. Because if you look at on paper, I feel like they were the best team in that tournament.
I think they were too.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm with you. I think it is a disappointment for Chicago, and just time after time we've seen them lack the killer instinct in these tournaments, or just the ability to find the right combination of guys that can put together in elimination matches. It just hasn't happened for them yet. So they're gonna come into Chicago. They still won the Central Division in the regular season. They're gonna come into Chicago Tier 1 championships at home at College of DuPage in July. They're going to be one of the favorites to win, and they're really going to get put to the test of, can they take every single match seriously, figure out a winning formula, and apply it to win another championship. I don't know the answer to that yet. From the history of this season, I don't have a lot of reasons to trust that they're going to be able to figure that out, despite all the talent that they have. So that's a really interesting one. Team LVC finishing 5th, I honestly think is a good finish for them, considering who they were missing. No Blake Leeson, no Mike Marshman, no Nick Scherzen, who I think all three are going to be at championships in Chicago, and that will make them the very early favorites for that. They were the shortest average height team I may have ever seen. I mean, Dave Evans and Spencer Wickens at the outsides, both 6 foot nothing. Like AJ Witkowski and Lance Rogers in the middle, like that's some decent size. Jordan Varese not the biggest opposite in the league. Joby Ramos is far from the biggest setter in the league. Like that was a small ball Team LVC team, and they still got to ESPN Sunday and they beat the River City Flow in that consolation match. So I was impressed by that, and I was impressed by Flow as well. They finally figured out that they need to bring a couple more guys to make some of these deep runs, and they got to Sunday and put on a good showing.
Yeah. Back to LVC, you got to give those guys so much credit. Yeah. I mean, they come out, and it doesn't matter who they have. They do not take anything off. Every single guy in their roster comes in and brings it when they get their opportunity. And I love the approach that those guys have, because obviously like Dave Evans is a perfect example of a guy who wouldn't start if they have Greg Petty and Nick Sturgeons. But he doesn't care. He's going to get on the floor when he gets his opportunity. He's going to go bring it. And that's why they're so successful, is because I feel like they understand their roles, and I don't think they play with a lot of expectation. I don't think that they play with, hey, we got to win this, or we have to win this because we're expected to. I think they just go and, hey, we're going to ball and we're going to have some fun and play. And I love that about them, because it does make for exciting volleyball. But it just shows that they have a lot of depth, and they are able to make the run that they have. The fact that they've won not only the East Division convincingly, but they handled the entire VLA as far as the rankings go. I mean, boy, I think they're at 44 points right now, and untouchable at this point. And and they did it without having a few of their best players. So it's going to be interesting to see how what their team looks like when it comes to the championships. And I mean, you got to say that they're probably the favorite over Iceman at that point, just because even if they don't field some of those guys, they have guys who are going to step up and bring it, and it's not going to be an issue for them who they field on the field or on the court.
Totally agree. LVC is still my pick for Tier 1 championships when we get there. A couple other notes, both Tier 1 and Tier 2. The Boston Bounce and the SoCal Rising Tide both going out in the second round of the bracket. I think for Boston, that was pretty much expected. Like, they didn't quite have all their guys. They're missing Greg Woods. They're missing some of the huge number of bodies that they like to roll the tournaments with. They had more like 11 or 12 guys this time, and Jeff Vautrin's inability to be 100%, like his health is definitely a concern for them. So they weren't totally complete, but they bowed out to Team LVC again in the second round, as LVC just owns them in that individual matchup. But not a bad performance for Bounce. And it was the first time we've seen the Rising Tide since really January, because that event in Arizona in February was not the real Rising Tide. But they showed up with a couple of their key West Coast based pieces. Matt August looked really good. Chris Kahn's back from Europe at the setter spot looked really good. Deshaun Graham also in the middle, Raelia Speller on the right. So that they had about half the team back, but it was that other half that they were missing that stopped them from making a further run. And that match in the second round against the Northeast Force they played was really, really high level, and Force was the better team in that particular match. So those two teams finishing about there. And then the disappointments as far as Tier 1 goes, definitely Team Pineapple and Sport Connects. I mean, we kind of expected it from Sport Connects given the roster they had. We knew about Colin Hackworth's injury, and they didn't really have another opposite that could be there. No Kyle Schweedy, no Eric Michalski. So they were going to have to mix and match some things, and it just didn't really work out for them, losing immediately to Milwaukee in pools, and then losing to Team ECV, who's really good in the first round of the bracket. That's a brutal first round bracket game. And then Team Pineapple, we already talked about. They got some nice pieces, but they couldn't mesh together as a team fast enough, and they ended up losing the first round as well.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about Team Pineapple for the most part. I think that they're kind of in the mix of for one, the Central Division is very deep. Tier 1, Tier 2, all the way through. I mean, it's a very difficult division to win. Team Pineapple had a tough run. Obviously, Emiola, the team that won it, they play first, right? So they lose that one. Playing against us in that early morning match, I mean, we're an upstart team. We have a lot to play for. I felt like maybe they didn't have the same type of intensity going into it. We were definitely the better team in that match, and so they lose that one. But I mean, if you look at the fact that the first two teams they played were us and Emiola, I mean, it's I don't necessarily think that's defining for Team Pineapple. I think that
I agree.
Yeah, I think that they're going to come out and it's it's still technically with the top six. They're up there, but they haven't gained a top six spot yet. But we'll see them in Chicago, and I think that they're going to be very dangerous in Chicago. Given a few months to ponder what's happened this past week, and they're gonna be one of the more dangerous teams to come up against. I think that I don't want to make excuses for them or anything like that, but obviously playing Emiola and playing us at that time, you can't fault Pineapple too much for that. But then they get the win against Pride, and so at least they save face a little bit.
And Pride was good. Like Pride was of those teams that finished like tied for last. Pride was clearly the best of the four. Like they played good volleyball at times there.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that Team Pineapple is a disappointment in that tournament for a perspective, but at the same time, if you look at who they played first. I think that a lot of people would think, oh, well, they should probably beat Ascension. But if you watch that match and you saw exactly, I think that Pineapple was relatively even keel. I don't think it was an up and down game for them. I think that it was more that we outplayed them and we got the victory.
I mean, so, that score line 24-26, 25-23, 22-25, 25-22, 15-12. Like that's about as close as it gets. And so I'm with you. I'm not that worried about Team Pineapple.
Right. And so and the other thing too, and I don't want to go too much in that Pineapple Ascension match, but Tomas Goldsmith won both of those sets for them. He got back to the service line and literally scored aces on served the sets out. Had he not done that, it may have been a 3-0 game. Just to point out the fact that Pineapple was just slightly a little bit, just under us at that point, compared to Tomas, who actually carried them to a set 5. So, but at the same time, when it comes down to it, once those guys play a little bit more together, I don't know what they're planning to do in between now and then, or at least the championships. But they're a dangerous team going into it. If they bring the same exact team that they had at VLA Cup to the championships, they're up there to be a contender for sure.
Yeah, I still agree with that. So let's take a look at the Tier 1 standings now. 2 of the 3 divisions are done for the season. The only one that's not is the West, and that will be in action this weekend, which we'll talk about in detail in just a minute. So the Central is a wrap, and as we expected from the beginning of the year, the Chicago Icemen win the Central Division, and they take one of the spots in Tier 1 championships. 36 points, 12-5 on the year. Ever since that very first event in Indiana, all the way back in January, when I think they went 4-0 and 11 points, we knew there was almost no way that Pineapple was going to be able to catch them. And sure enough, even with like a couple disappointing like Cup Series tournament finishes for the Icemen, they still controlled that division. So they grabbed a spot in the playoffs. In the East, Team LVC, like you talked about, will be the number 1 seed in the playoffs. 44 points on the year is just incredible, especially with the fact that we still have not seen their full powered roster. So the fact they were able to do this with the pieces they had throughout the season is amazing. So 44 points LVC is in. Boston Bounce 27 points, 9-8. They are in as well, because they're ahead of right now of both Team Pineapple and the Northeast Force with no matches left to play. So Bounce is in, Northeast Force is out. 5-13, 17 points, just not quite good enough. Like you said, that if they had Nick Hunt the whole year, different story. If they had made even more of a miracle run on Saturday at VLA Cup, maybe a different story, but it was too little too late. So I think they've got a taste of what they can really be like next year, but they will not be going to the playoffs. Where it gets really interesting is what's coming up this weekend. So you see it just straight ranked 1 through 8. Those top 3 there, LVC, Iceman, and Bounce are in, and Force is out. Of the remaining 4, Ascension, Pineapple, Sport Connects, and Rising Tide, 3 will go to Chicago, 1 will not. So Pineapple is still very much alive because the Rising Tide needs 4 points and then maybe some tiebreakers to get there or past them. Sport Connects needs a point, which is not guaranteed, and you guys and them have tiebreakers, which I don't even know how it works off the top of my head. So still a lot left to be decided on who gets the 3 remaining playoff spots out of those 4 teams that still have a chance.
Yeah, we kind of knew that the championships would come down to this last event. It's slightly unfortunate that it comes after the VLA Cup because it would have been really neat to see everything kind of concluded at that point. But at the same time, these events need to be played, and it's an interesting spot for all 3 of us to be in. I know that Rising Tide is going to have a majority of their guys, the main guys. I believe Kevin Johnson is going to be there, or Chris Johnson, sorry, is going to be there. And obviously Chris Kahn's being back, huge for them, in my opinion. I think he's the second best setter in the VLA outside of Sunil Thomas. And I mean, I think that sitting at 18 points right now, they could very well be at 30 by the end of this weekend.
Wow, I don't know about that. I don't know about 4-0. Like this weekend is going to be very competitive, but they're going to have a good chance.
Yeah, not to discount what Ascension and Sport Connect is going to bring at them or anything like that. I just know that the talent that they have has that capability, and so we'll see what happens. Obviously, we got to play the matches to make it happen. Ascension's going to look good this weekend. We've got a few kids that have just graduated. Colin Donisthorpe from 6'10" All-American from Ottawa University. He's going to be suiting up with us. We're really excited to have him. Part of our rebuilding process, obviously, bringing in Seth Gulliher, another 6'10" middle, and then 6'9" opposite, Brennan Hart. I'm really excited to see these guys get their first taste of actual. Seth Gulliher's played a little bit, but Colin and Brennan getting their first actual VLA action. We played a lot here in Arizona as far as playing against some of the different club teams and whatnot, and we look pretty good. But I feel like we're going into this with a lot of confidence. Hopefully that doesn't go to our head and bite us in the butt here. But we'll see. I mean, we got to make it happen. The West Division Championship is on the line for all 3 teams. All 3 teams could get it at the end. So it's going to be a really exciting weekend for VLA volleyball.
And I think Sport Connects is kind of the wild card because as good as they started the season, having a pretty good run at West Division Cup, which seems like a million years ago, and then going into VLA Cup at 6-2. They come out 1-2 from Indiana, only 21 points, and now they're what a division that we thought was theirs now is absolutely anyone's. So that's going to be extremely interesting coming into this weekend. What Sport Connect is able to bring, because we know Colin Hackworth is injured, so who are they going to play at opposite? I think that Eric Mihalski is going to be able to make this trip, and that changes everything for them. So I'm really curious. This weekend could go absolutely any way, and I think that's a good. Now is a perfect time to talk about the weekend. The final regular season event of the year, finally, like Vince was saying, it's too bad that we couldn't wrap it all up by the time VLA Cup happened, because that would have put even more of an emphasis on that event. But now this is actually really kind of cool with the way the standings have shaken out is how competitive this West Division is. We've talked about all year, it's probably the best division top to bottom of any, at least in Tier 1. And well, when you put Ruckus and Emiola in the mix in the West, that's absolutely insane.
Not to brag, but the West Division is clearly, in my opinion, clearly the best division. But
so it's been extremely competitive, and now there's all the stakes in the world going into this weekend with berths and playoffs on the line. So we will be at the JVA West Coast Cup, another event in conjunction with the JVA, which we absolutely love, just like Louisville. But I wasn't able to be in Louisville because Buffalo was going on at the same time. So I'm stoked that I'll be able to be at this JVA event, sharing the court with like however many dozens of juniors courts at the Long Beach Convention Center. So here are the match times for Saturday and Sunday. It's just a classic 3-team double round robin that you should know and love by now. All matches streamed live on YouTube for free. And by the end of this weekend, on Sunday evening of Memorial Day weekend, we're going to know who the 6 playoff teams are. So I'm really, really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. Obviously, the opportunity to play at the JVAs is so big for us. I mean, we get so much exposure, fan friendly, obviously. JVA is just a great organization to work with. They do so much for us, providing the courts and obviously the environment that we get to play in. And in Long Beach itself, I mean, there's most of the, or I shouldn't say most of, but a lot of the players are actually coaching at this tournament at this time. I know that from Ascension, Zach Melcher is going to be coaching at that time. So it's really cool for the players to get the opportunity to see their coaches playing at such a high level, and hopefully they respect us a little more after that when we're out there court. Maybe they'll listen.
So when they call timeout, they might have your attention. You might have their attention a little bit more once they've seen you play at the VLA level. Yeah, that's going to be really cool. The vibe at these events, like these big convention center style events with all the juniors playing, and as they all just get hooked when they see VLA, like the VLA level for the first time, see men's professional ball for some of them the first time. Although being in SoCal is the one place where maybe they have been exposed to extremely high level men's ball of all places. So I love these events. I'm excited to be there. This is the schedule, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, starting at 8 a.m. Pacific on Sunday, and by Sunday afternoon we will know who the 6 playoff teams are. So these 3 teams all still very much with a chance, and Team Pineapple very anxiously watching from home.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend. There's no way to predict how this one's going to turn out.
Absolutely none.
Considering how I hate to say, but Sport Connect's losing Colin Hackworth, in my opinion, the best opposite in the league in Tier 1, is huge and detrimental to them. However, I mean, the fact that they'll have like Conrad Kaminsky, Ryan Bridge holds them together, they're still such a dangerous team. Madison Hayden, such a great player, great ball control, outside hitter. I mean, they're going to be very deadly. Rising Tide, finally going to be fielding their guys. Very dangerous team, perhaps the best in the league. And then the way that we're playing, very, very upstart and finally coming together with a couple new pieces, it's just going to make for a great weekend.
Absolutely. And that brings me to the next thing I wanted to show. So throughout the season, I've been going over some power rankings, which is just my kind of subjective perceptions of Tier 1 from 1 to 8. And for the most part, it's been pretty clear how you can rank the teams from 1 to 8 through most of the season. But after VLA Cup, this was the hardest I've ever had to think about a set of power rankings, even though they don't actually matter. They're just my opinions. But it was the hardest one I've had to do by far. So here they are. Team LVC still at the top. And the Northeast Force, despite a very good and promising run at VLA Cup, still at the bottom. But everything else in between that was like, it was impossible for me to place those 6 teams. I bumped Chicago up from 3 to 2, mostly because Sport Connects, who was at 2 before, clearly dropped quite a bit after their VLA Cup performance. But I'm still not totally sold on Chicago's ability to win a championship because of the reasons we already talked about. But look at the move from Vince's Phoenix Ascension from 7th all the way up to 3rd. And then Rising Tide, Boston, Sport Connects, Team Pineapple, like that 3 through 7, those teams that are all like fighting for playoff spots right there, with Boston in the middle already having one, was I had no idea how to put those teams in order. So that's what I've got right now. Ascension 3, Rising Tide 4, Bounce 5, Sport Connect 6, Pineapple 7. What do you think, Vince? This is the highest you guys have been all season.
Yeah, this is the first time I felt like we deserved higher than where we're at. And likewise, I think that some of the teams right now are trying to reel in a way where I think that we're one of the only teams that is like, we're good and feeling good. Us and LVC, I think we're feeling good about where we're at. I think the other teams are trying to really, okay, let's reestablish our foundations and move forward with the rest of the season. Iceman, I think, is in that boat. Rising Tide and Sport Connects you're going to have a very different roster than they've had all season coming into this weekend. Balance, I think, is kind of shown where they belong. So I think this is very accurate on where it stands. However, it's going to look different at the end of the season. Let's just say that. I don't think that this is where 1 through obviously 1 and 8 may be the same, but I don't think 2 through 7 is going to look like this come maybe past this weekend. So,
this is going to change.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I just have my opinion on where some of the teams are at is that I don't think that a lot of the tier ones got what they wanted out of the VLA Cup. I think that we did. I think that LVC did, and I think that was it. I think
the Force did, yeah.
Yeah, Force did, but they were only able to go so high with the limitations of their previous events. So, yeah, I think that half of tier 1 right now is trying to find themselves, and I think that us and LVC are really the only ones that are like, okay, we're in a good position where we want to be. I think Iceman just has so much talent that they sit at that number 2 spot, but they still, again, to be dethrone LVC, they have to figure it out. They have to figure out what it is that they need to do to be the best team. And it's not like they can't. They're 2-time defending champions right now, but against tier 1 teams, it's just when it comes to those cup tournaments, for whatever reason, those tier 2 teams just have their number, and they just can't put it together against them.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point you brought up on the teams that are happy with where they're at versus some that are still really kind of figuring themselves out. And I think you nailed it. LVC, Ascension, and Force, I think, are the only ones that are happy with where they're at. And even though Force's season is over, I think they have a good taste in their mouth at the VLA Cup run. But Rising Tide has just been too much shuffling. I think they're too unsettled. Sport Connects is extremely unsettled. Pineapple, their roster right now is put together well, but they're unsettled in the fact that they don't even know if they're going to the playoffs or not. Chicago is they just have to figure out how to win a tournament. We can't, like, I think you and I combined know the game of volleyball pretty well, and neither of us can figure out what is going on with the Chicago Icemen team. It's very confusing. And then Boston, I think, is good, but I don't think I think they're good. I think they're a playoff team, but I think they're exactly who they've shown to be throughout this year. They're about a 500 team. They will beat the teams that they should, and they will never beat a team that's better than them. And I think that is going to pretty much be their identity, at least for the rest of this season, barring a miracle. So there's still so much movement to be done here. And this weekend is going to have a huge amount to do with that. It was impossible to make this list. It was very, very challenging. That's what makes this league a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool. The fact that tier 1 and tier 2 compete with each other, and it matters, is it's not one of those things where it's like we can just, I mean, if you didn't count tier 2 losses, I think Iceman's undefeated at this point, right? And so
let's see. No, I think they lost 1 5-setter to Pineapple in Louisville, maybe.
But the thing is that it does matter, and those teams do matter because they are it's all the same level. It's not like it's like, oh, tier 1 is here and tier 2 is here. I mean, we've tried to establish its commitment level to the process of the league, and you've seen what an Emiola can do, where they go from Chicago, they pick up a couple of solid players, and all of a sudden now they're the top team in the VLA Cup. And it's just so cool to see how some of these teams are going, making these waves up and down. And it's just all good competitive volleyball. And it's so exciting to see. So I mean, obviously some of our teams have to do a little bit more. Tier 1 has a little bit more of the camera eye on them, where there's a little bit of a different kind of focus. Requiring the consistencies with the rosters and things like that. But I think that overall, I mean, it's been a lot of good volleyball for us to try to to build the league and gauge the level of what we're all playing here. And it's just been such an exciting season at this point.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Chicago's losses, by the way, River City Flow, Swede, Dive twice, and then Pineapple once in a 5-setter in Louisville. So yeah, the 4 of their 5 losses against Tier 2 teams this year. Speaking of Tier 2, before we wrap up the show, I want to put up the Tier 2 standings really quickly. Emiola grabbing that coveted cup win, but I want you to look at that column on the right. As far as we know right now, Ruckus and Emiola aren't actively seeking promotion. So even though Ruckus is 1 cup win away from a promotion offer and 40 points out of 100, I'm not really considering them and Emiola as part of the drama that is the promotion race. Where the drama is in the Central. I mean, look at that. Look at what the Milwaukee Dive have done this year. 37 points in only, 3 events? That is crazy. Crazy. Over 12 points on average per event. That's absolutely nuts. And Swede had a head start on them. Swede had 5 points carry over from last year's VLA Cup. And Dive surpassed them this season, and they're 3 points behind them in the cumulative totals for perhaps promotion, because there's the Central Division, you only need 50 points or 2 cup wins. So it's unlikely that it's going to be possible for Dive to get 13 points at Tier 2 championships, but they could grab a cup win, be 1 step closer. We've talked on the show, Vince, we thought this was Swede's race to lose. And sure enough, Milwaukee has completely caught them from way behind in their starting position. And it could be either of those 2 teams that gets that first promotion. And then in the East as well, like ECV had an okay VLA Cup, but not great. But if they win Tier 2 championships, which they will get an invite to because of that win in Buffalo, they could be on the doorstep of being the first team promoted if they win another tournament next year. It's crazy, the drama in Tier 2. And we'll finalize the field for Tier 2 championships, but put on your calendars right now, the weekend of June 18th. June 18th and 19th will be Tier 2 championships in suburban Chicago as well. So Tier 2 teams are going to be coming into my backyard, and one of them's walking out of there with some season-long hardware and a cup win in the standings. Big deal. Very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tier 2 race has been ecstatically exciting.
Electric.
It's fantastic. And, and obviously Dive, Swede, both of them are ready for promotion now. I mean, we've talked to some of the teams. I talked to River City Flow, Sam Alvis over there, and obviously Christy Yanamura with the Ruckus and Emiola teams. Some of them aren't quite ready to make that jump into Tier 1 for various reasons. And so they're happy just where they're at, competing, playing great volleyball, working their way up the rankings, and then possibly when they get that offer and they earn it, they'll accept or not. We'll see. Dive and Swede are 100% gunning for this first Tier 1 bid, and that's what's really cool about it, is that these guys are going for it. And it really was too bad. Sorry, Jordan Smith. I threw that offer out to him, just I threw out to Loy. If Jordan Smith would have started, I would have started. Probably a 3-0 win for Sweden that game against us. I'm telling you, I said the same thing to Eric Martin too when we played them, and Tim Faulkner as well with Iceman. But I'm pretty sure we would have beat Iceman had I started with Faulkner.
Man, wow, what could have been? We could have had Vince versus Loy Ball, Vince versus Jordan Smith, Vince versus Tim Faulkner, and then Vince versus Eric Martin. Oh my God, what a day that would have been!
Yeah. It would have been pretty much the most epic day of volleyball ever. I probably wouldn't be able to talk still at this moment, but no one wanted to take me up on these challenges, so here we are. And but yeah, it's been really exciting to see the Central Division pan out. Dive coming in a little bit late to the game wasn't. I really wish that either one of them could have made it out to that West Division Cup in January.
Oh, because then they'd be getting promoted this year. Somebody would be getting promoted this year at that point. That's crazy.
One of them 100% would have been promoted this year. And we'll see what happens with that. I mean, that's still something. The 2 of these teams obviously have earned where the placement that they're in. And we recognize talent. It's not like that, and commitment as well. It's not like they're not showing up to tournaments. They're playing everything. They're doing everything they can to get into this spot. So It's going to be one of those things. We're going to see how Tier 2 championships pan out. I wish all 4 teams that compete in it the best of luck, because it's going to be really exciting for them to have their own tournament. Not that Tier 2 hasn't completely dominated all their tournaments anyways, but I feel like they've been their own tournaments anyways. But this is really cool because there is no extra bonus points. It's not like you can go and grab a quick 4 off of some team. This is going to be just the Tier 2 teams in their own little scrum, and it's going to be really exciting to see. Give them a little taste for what they're out there trying to accomplish. So
it's that cup win that's on the line for winning Tier 2 championships. That's the real prize dangling in front of them on this one, because you're right, no bonus points for beating anyone. It's that simple little yellow cup in that second from the right column that is really tantalizing, especially if you're Dive or Swede who's trying to get promoted now. So that tournament is coming up next in mid-June. But first, one more time before we wrap up the show, I want to put the schedule for this weekend up there. The final event for Tier 1 Western Division, Saturday, May 28th, this Saturday, Memorial Day weekend in Long Beach. 10 a.m. start Pacific time on Saturday, 8 a.m. start Pacific time on Sunday. And again, on Sunday afternoon, we will know who our 6 Tier 1 playoff teams will be. So Vince, I think that might be about it. I think we did a great job. We wrapped up VLA Cup. We set the stage for the playoff races, and now there's nothing left to do but get ourselves to Long Beach and play some ball this weekend, huh?
Absolutely. Until then, I got to give a huge shout out to my Chandler National Little League Brewers 8U division. Going to the championship tomorrow. My son's playing in it with a lot of his friends. I'm coaching that team, so I got to give them a huge shout out. We had a huge victory today. I think we won like 23-20 or something like that. It's outrageous.
What kind of offense are we talking about in Little League baseball?
Awesome double play to finish off the game in the top of the 6th. We were the home team, but so I got to give them a huge shout out. Go Brewers! And but yeah, other than that, hey. Tune in YouTube channel, VLA obviously. Mikasa, big shout out to them. They came through huge for us at the VLA Cup. Novice clearly is making big waves in the volleyball community right now. We can't say enough about their support with helping us with ESPN and everything.
Oh, yeah. Their commercial looked so good on ESPN, and there was so much Novice going on in that gym all weekend at Loy's Place. Speaking of Novice, I want to put out something to all the teams that I think everybody should already know. You see this is a Phoenix Ascension hoodie, courtesy of Vince and courtesy of Novice. If you give me stuff, I will wear it on shows and I will wear it to tournaments. I think
same here. This goes out to Jay. I appreciate the donation right there. We made a little trade out there. I got him some Ascension stuff. He gave me some of this stuff. But absolutely, yeah, guys, you want to shout out to any of your teams. I support all of the Tier 2 teams, not just one. All of you guys, I'm going for all of you guys. I hope you can all promote and all that stuff. And if you want me to wear your shirt, hook me up with one.
Yeah. I can definitely be bought with free Novice stuff. I've already got quite the collection going, and I am insatiable. I want as much free Novice stuff as the teams will give me. So just putting that out there for all the teams that might have some extra Novice gear lying around after this year. So yeah, shout outs to Novice, shout outs to Mikasa, and shout outs to you all for watching. We will see you this weekend in Long Beach. Thanks for watching Around the VLA. Tune in this weekend from SoCal on YouTube.